Hey guys, welcome back. Today I will be explaining one of the key elements to understanding why has the papaya team been so dominant this year. Although there are a lot of factors that go into this, there are factors of aerodynamics, there are factors of mechanical grip, there are factors of how they manage their entire underfloor, which to go into would take a long time. But one thing that I found particularly interesting as to how they've engineered something that people don't really look towards is very interesting. So let's have a look at that. Firstly, in order to understand it, we must understand the part where this part lies, which is the diffuser. So first of all, let me mark up some elements of the diffuser here. Note the fact that this is the area we call the diffuser. You'll be able to see I've just marked it up here. Just erase that. Yeah. And one of the most striking parts that I want you to look at here is essentially how they're running their beam wing setup. One of their beam wings is completely flat right here, and one of their beam wings is an angled one. Now, this is not a very uncommon setup, but what is uncommon is essentially the gap that they have here. Generally, teams don't like to go for that gap because it is just flow separation that you're allowing to happen through that. But why would you be confident to have that gap, and why is it actually beneficial to have that gap? The reason it's beneficial to have that gap is although you'll be having flow separation, it means that you can use the different flows for different purposes. Not every single flow that you get through the vein needs to be used for downforce generation. It can be even used for other purposes, as we learn through our entire series. But this is one of the interesting things that I've noticed. Other than that, it's the small aerodynamic elements. Okay, this part, look at this, how they've angled the wing. This is not their own idea. They got this from Williams, who actually introduced it in 2023. And ever since then, they've started angling their wings. What does this do essentially? Let's just visualize it through a color. It essentially upwashes every little bit of air that comes up. So here you'll be having your air flow through the vein and everything. It just upwashes that air. Every little bit gives you something or the other in terms of downforce points. You don't want to lose that out. It's simple. You try and optimize every bit of it. Now, the part that has actually been very important for their entire dominance is the brake duct. Now, how does that exactly count for dominance? When where does that part exactly lie? It's not the front, but their entire brake duct as a whole is very interesting as to how they've designed it. But the main brake duct that I want you to look at is the rear. Of course, I have a clearer picture that we can look at, but this is the area mainly I want you to look at. And why is that brake duct important? Is because it is in proximity with what is arguably the most important part in your downforce generation. You can have a great floor, but if you don't have a diffuser that backs it up, you cannot translate that flow into load generated because simply because you won't be sending out the air through the diffuser, you won't be able to generate a downforce. So the proximity of these two is what makes your rear brake duct very important, and that's why I believe this is the defining factor other than their floor as to why they're a very powerful machine on track. Now let's of course look at their brake duct closely. I've got a picture that I think not a lot of people have from the paddock. This is their rear brake duct. Just zoom in a bit, makes it easier for you guys then. Yeah, let's just do a quick check as to see that everything is working. Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is their rear brake duct. Let me just quickly do an outline. My bad. Let's outline the cooling zone so that we don't draw any arrow on that. This is a steering wheel brake. Okay, so this area is entirely for cooling. The brake duct's primary work is to essentially take in hot air, cool the rim, cool the entire cake tin inside. I'll explain what a cake tin is later on, and then and then push the air outside. So naturally, cool air comes in, and ambient air comes in. I can't even say cool air because you have tracks like Jeddah and Bahrain where it is genuinely hot. So some ambient air comes in, and much hotter air goes out. It's essentially you have a similar principle to an air conditioner, but that's a very far off example, but something similar to that. So you have ambient air coming in, you have hot air going out. This is the basic principle of your brake duct. But Why would you not use that air well? Well, people don't really use this air well because it's a very small volume of air, in the sense that you're getting very little flow through it. But you also got to look at the sheer amount of times you're getting that same amount of air coming in. So it's a compounding thing. The other thing I wanted to look at is here. This this vein is essentially a guide vein of sorts. It's guiding the airflow to go in line with this vein. So what happens is that when the flow does go out, when the flow does come out of that duct, it will integrate with the flow structures. And note, where is this in close proximity to? Note that this part is the diffuser edge. If you were to send out hot air close to the diffuser edge, and you were able to successfully push it towards the downward vein, which would essentially make it load generated because of hot air you did not get through the floor and you just got it from outside. That would mean you can manipulate your entire on body aero to send hot air directly to your rear axle, which would push it forward and essentially make it a free downforce point. You can now use on body aero even more. It's essentially nullifying the 2021 reg change, which was an aim to essentially reduce the amount of on-body aero. Just look at some of the 2017-18 wings we had. The amount of on-body aero back then was inexplicable. Even in 2007, underbody aero was pretty much nothing. But it's increased over time, and this is essentially one of the biggest things that they can do that makes them very strong. This is a close look at the rear brake duct. So what they're gaining out of this essentially, when they're taking hot air in, you're taking out the hot air through the brake duct, and hot air has a higher kinetic energy than cold air. So what this does essentially, it provides you very energized airflow, and when you push it through that diffuser edge, it is highly pressurized, giving you more downforce. Now this is also another reason why they're able to cool the tires well, why they're able to actually not have tire degradation much, not cool, I should not use the word cool. When your brake ducts are efficient, it means you're able to flow more air through the brake duct in a certain cycle as compared to the other teams. When you're able to flow more air, ambient air, remember track temperature is always a few degrees above ambient temperature. So always any air that comes in will always cool the tire. It is seldom happening that the tires are cooler than the ambient temperature, or it's usually the track temperature or above in this case. So when this happens, you've got a higher amount of air coming in that is a more ambient than the track temperature affecting it. Because you have a lower carcass temperature, the amount of heat transferred to the tire core will be lesser, leading to less physical degradation. Yes, the thermic degradation effect will also be lesser, leading to overall lesser wear of your tire. Because the main because in tires you've got two main types of degradation. You have got physical degradation that happens through load, which is you go through your turns, you go through your corners, you go on curbs. That is physical degradation. You can't stop because that is a physical force. But the heat is something you can control, and that is what essentially the efficiency of the brake ducts is helping. It is helping them in tire deg a lot. So an efficient brake duct will always help you in tire deg. Now let's also have a look at what I was talking about essentially is the cake tin. Now how is the cake tin important? This is what is called the cake tin because it quite literally looks like a cake tin. When you send the okay now let's observe this flow area here. I'll zoom in as well for you guys to see. Now let's quickly just draw through that. Yeah, see, notice how they have essentially created vortices, at least pathways where they want the vortices to go. And in this way, you're essentially forcing that air to go within this cake tin, rotate inwards. And of course, internally, we have seen how complicated it is. I don't have a photo right now to show you. I wish I did. But you can just look up the brake ducts, and it's the same on the rear. They have a photo. Although I showed you a photo of the actual brake duct, they will show you a photo. Google will show you a photo of what is the outside within the cake tin. This got bad results, and that is from Automotive Unsport. And of course, here you've got the exit vane. Now, this is the most interesting part is because of all the pressurization going in. When it's pressured out, It goes out at a higher force, and when it integrates with your diffuser edge, it's giving you downforce. Plain and simple. That is what your entire argument of how they use their brake ducts is based on, and that's exactly where they're very powerful. I'll show you a CFD that I have that is going to essentially cement it in your mind that this is exactly why that happens, because I want to show proof, not just be in theory. So this is essentially a CFD of how your diffuser will work. Notice how the blue circled area is the part from where the load is, where there is a significant amount of weight coming from the rear tire. This is the rear tire. Let's just remember, this is the rear tire. When the load is generated from this rear tire, a significant amount is wasted as dirty air. But if you can move it into the diffuser flow, you are making that into downforce. You're making that into something that your car needs, and you're making that into something that your car will benefit a lot from. That is why they're very strong. This brings me to another point. This is also where they have one of their weaknesses, because the team wait, I'll just visualize this for you. Assume this is a car. It's really not, but this is a car. This is a McLaren, okay. McLaren. And this is a car in front. Assume there's roughly about 0.7 of a car length. Do you know why they're horrible in a slipstream? It's because they have modeled it to such aerodynamic perfection. Unless you have a proper flow, the car does not behave well in dirty air. That is why you could see multiple times, even under DRS, it was DRS. Unless it has DRS, it's not very strong. Because it's modeled under such perfect airflow, when it has dirty air, it's not getting all that power. It's not getting enough uh, cooling. It's not getting enough downforce generated because you just don't have enough flow, and it's worse than the other cars. The other cars are facing the same issue, but it's far exacerbated in the McLaren. One more evidence of this is essentially look back to the sprint in China. Piastri was following Max for quite a majority of the race, and he was in DRS for most of the time. When he finally overtook Max, it's not like the Ferrari was the fastest car out there, but it's because he had not cooled his tires enough. Because he was in the DRS, he did not have enough flow through the brake duct to cool his tire enough. He had a lot of tire degradation, and we know he's got much better at his tire prep abilities as well. So we can't question that, oh, he's just a bad tire saver. No, it's because you're not able to cool the brake ducts enough at the rear. You're not getting the optimal degradation you should. You're getting it worse than you should. As such, you're not able to keep your tires as well as you should. That is one of the fundamental weaknesses that the McLaren possesses. I have some more photos to show you, but they are more or less the same thing I just explained. This is how the flow structure would look. This is the upper picture is essentially showing how it looks in the forward brake duct, and this picture essentially shows how it would look at the rear. Of course, you would have a significant amount going through the diffuser as well. That is the entire argument. But yeah, that is essentially one of one of their secrets. And that is Tech Talk with Abhilash done for today. I hope you guys liked it, and let me know what you guys want me to cover next time. I'll see you around. Bye bye.